Welcome to a very special edition of Out of the Box. And the reason this is such a special edition is because I didn't do the unboxing. This is actually a fun project I did with a radio station in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, named Rock 95. Now, what I did was I was asked to do a live performance piece during their big birthday bash that they have every year. And this birthday bash is a big concert they have. They always have classic Canadian bands or modern Canadian bands that are iconic play a big arena show. This year, there was David Wilcox, Sloan and Finger Eleven, three iconic Canadian bands. And they asked me to create a piece, live action, real-time piece during the concert in front of 2,500 people while the bands played the concert. And of course I said yes. Why wouldn't I do this? I am a huge music fan. Three bands that I thoroughly enjoy as well. Plus performing in front of people, bring art to that crowd. Couldn't give that up. I had to do this show. Now, part of this whole thing as well was the piece wasn't just going to be an art piece that people would display after. We are going to auction it off for their yearly Christmas toy drive. That's right, people. This piece is going to be 100% for charity. So how could I say no? Plus, I could combine two of my favorite things in the world, art and music. So, as many know, I've done a lot of work with bands. In fact, I've worked with so many bands, like doing either designs of posters or logos or album covers, that last year, a cassette company, Tarantula Tapes in Barrie, Ontario, put out a cassette of all bands I've worked with, and that became the soundtrack to my art exhibit. I've also done a lot of posters in the past for bands, and I decided not only am I going to do the auction piece, the piece live in front of everyone, I was going to do a poster as well that could be handed out to special recipients at the concert as a gift to them. But why not go all the way with this thing? So, the concept behind these pieces, I had to start off thinking, where do I want to go with this? And I thought nothing screams rock and roll more to me than classic cars. Now, main reason being is that my father, Bill Dawson, growing up, he raised me on rock and roll. And he was also a car guy. So I wanted that to be my inspiration. He also was the biggest influence in my art career. So I really wanted to combine all these elements. So I knew I was going to do classic cars and music and combine it all into one piece somehow. So my dad's classic car was a 47 Merc. So that was my starting point, a 47 Mercury. So I actually didn't have a side picture of his car. So I went online, found one, and I worked with it, right? But I did it in the same colors as my dad's car. I'm also known for bolting stuff down to the piece. So I knew that I wanted to bolt something down to go beside this painting of the car. And I figured it out, but I'm not going to reveal that quite yet. You got to wait to the end. Trust me, it's worth waiting around to the end to see this. So the first steps of this whole project was that the car was going to be going across the board with all the work. So I got the picture of the car and I started doing just a pen and ink drawing. This is how I start all my work. I like to do a lot of cross-hatching. I spent time on it. This was like a good 6-hour drawing for me, like just constantly pen work. Now, since I already had the ink out, I thought, why not start to do the font design for the poster, right? Because I do all the design all by hand as well. There is no computer technology here. It's me photocopying stuff and then tracing the images. Believe it or not, this is the longest part of the project, is actually doing all these fonts by hand, tracing it, drawing it, doing the outline, filling it in. And I'm sure you're seeing lots of really quick clips of me doing this all right now. And that's cool. That's all right. I like people to see the actual work that goes into this when you do it by hand. I'm old school, just like the car, just like rock and roll. I had to go old school. Once I had all the fonts and the drawing finished, I actually had to do what's called burn it into a silkscreen. Now, burning into silkscreen is a process that I can use to make multiple copies of the work. Now, I can't just do posters on regular paper. As many know, I'm known for using vintage and reclaimed paper materials. And so I used a vintage roll of wallpaper. I actually have probably 200 or 300 rolls of wallpaper in my collection at my disposal. Anytime I do a band poster, it's always on reclaimed paper or reclaimed wallpaper. I had to prime it, I had to cut it, and then I could start the silkscreen on it. So the first thing I did was I did the silkscreen of the car. I did orange, then I did pink, and then I did the black as the final color. And if you notice, what I like to do is I actually like to have it where it looks a little blurry. To me, it reminds me of like the three-dimensional or the 3D books that you used to get as a kid in the 80s, where you had to put the red and blue sunglasses on, or the red and blue glasses, and then you'd look at it and be all popping out of the page. I like that look. To me, are like reminiscent of a TV trying to focus and come in back in the 80s. Now, once I did the car, I had to figure out how to do the fonts. And I want to break to right now to a moment that I was having right before I started the fonts. Well, I'm at the big stage in the poster for the Rock 95 birthday bash poster, and this is probably one of the most nerve-wracking parts of this entire procedure, because I've never done 3 colors on the same screen at the same time. 3 different squeegees, 3 different colors. Precision is nuts. Not gonna lie to you, I'm kind of nervous. I'm hoping it turns out. Let's see. So, I'll show you the end product of the poster. As you can tell, I got through doing the 3 fonts. I got through it. My kid Matisse helped me out the entire process too. And P.S., Matisse is big into punk and metal now too. Rock and roll, baby. So, the next thing I had to do was build the structure for the actual auction piece. I'm not going to go through how I built it all. You can watch episode 1 of my regular Out of the Box show to see how I build these structures. I use all reclaimed wood and whatnot. And then I had to put the canvas onto it. Now, I don't use canvas. Once again, I use reclaimed materials, vintage materials, and I use old bed sheets and pillowcases that I get from secondhand stores. Now, as an added bonus to this piece, what I did, I thought I'd add a little bit extra stuff into it, and I had Ben McCauley, one of the DJs on Rock 95. He interviewed me live on air to actually talk about the piece, and I had him choose the bed sheet that I was going to paint on, sorry. He chose the bed sheet I was going to paint on, and then I went from there. I wanted him to be part of that piece. I wanted Rock 95 to be even more of the piece. So that way, that was their part. They helped with this piece as well. Having McCauley choose the bed sheet for the piece brought a cool interactive element to the work. Now, it's time for the big show, and man, did I have fun. Lots of people came and saw me. I rocked out. David Wilcox got me into the groove. I was shaking. I was moving. I was getting there. I'm sure we'll see some clips right now of the show. We'll see slides of me getting right in there. You'll see that I'm drawing it first. I drew the car. Then I actually added something called water-soluble pencil, and that's a pencil that I can then add with water, and that's how I get the color of the car, right? I left a big open space to the right of the piece just so I could bolt that thing down. I'm going to tell you, that was one of the best experiences I've had in my art career, especially when Sloan came on. When Sloan played, I was giving it. Not only that, Rock 95 thanked me through the entire concert, always calling up to me while I was working on the piece, making sure that people were coming by, checking things out, right? I was part of that show. It was awesome. It was just absolutely incredible. Now, after 3 hours of working out and at the show, I couldn't finish the piece that night. Also, there was too many emotions going on, and I was just drained. And I really felt that I needed to finish this piece back in the studio. So as you can see, this is me putting the fine details on it. Sort of cleaning everything up, figure out what everything's got to be like, right? Putting everything in its proper place. And this is where I can actually bolt the piece on. All right, it's time to check out the final pieces. First the poster, then the final auction piece. Let's go. So as you can see for the poster, it turned out great. I'm so happy with it. It's got that classic vibe to it, the classic car. I used all the band's proper fonts. I used the station's proper font. And I am extremely happy with the way this turned out. Now, the date at the bottom is my font that I've sort of invented over the years. It's a cross between Iron Maiden and AC/DC and scratchiness and stuff like that. I just use this for a lot of things. But I'm very happy with the end result of the poster. And let me tell you, people, the rock station and people that got the poster all contacted me saying how much they loved that poster. And I was told that the bands that signed it loved the poster too. Here it is, the final piece, the piece going to auction, the piece that's going to raise money for the Toy Drive charity. I entitled this one, The Other Man. It involves Sloan. It's a line from one of my favorite songs by them, and I believe the title too, The Other Man. And that song, when they played that in concert, that's what really made me feel like I have arrived. I was there at that concert. Not only that, but at the concert, I was the other man. I was the other person. I wasn't the Sean show. It was the band, but I was part of the show. Now you can see the thing that I did add to the three-dimensional thing that I bolted down is not only a drum skin, but it's a drum skin signed by all the musicians that played that night. That's right, you heard me. All the musicians that played that night. And I just thought this was the perfect mix of rock and roll and classic cars. And I wish my dad was here to see it because he would have loved it. And I'm very proud of this piece. So I really hope people do bid on it, and I hope it raises money for the toy drive. I'd like to thank Rock 95 for this great experience. I'd also like to thank Darren Eagles, who took a lot of the slides or a lot of the stills that you saw. He's a great rock and roll photographer and friend of mine. And not only that, I'd like to thank the man that's behind the editing of all this. And in fact, he's behind the editing of all the videos I do, and that is Tony Picard. He's not only the editor, he's one of the greatest photographers and one of the greatest artists I met, and someone I am honored to call my friend. Hopefully you like this. This is the first time you're meeting me, first time you're watching the videos. Well, guess what? It doesn't end here. Hit the subscribe button. Please subscribe to this channel. I will be putting out one of my videos one a month. Until I get more people, then maybe I'll put out 2 a month. But please watch them. Comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. And I hope you join me again on Out of the Box.